So Gary, thanks again for joining me today. Really do appreciate your time. The main purpose of today's meeting was for me just to come in and share some ideas and some strategies of what other CEOs and CFOs are doing to not only be more competitive in today's marketplace, but really positioning their company for growth in the future.
Perfect.
So, before we jump headfirst into everything here, I just wanted to take a few minutes and go over what we went through on the phone. Make sure that we're on the same page and that we didn't miss anything. So you mentioned on the phone that some of your key business initiatives and some of your main goals that you're looking to accomplish is number one is growth. Now, what does growth mean to you? I mean, what does that look like for you?
Well, want to increase revenue. One of the ways that we're doing that is looking at other markets, looking to open up some new stores.
New stores, okay.
Yeah.
And how many new stores are you looking to open up?
2 to 4 at this stage.
2 to 4, okay. You also mentioned that talent acquisition or talent management was another one of your key initiatives. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I'm a firm believer in having the right people. To be able to facilitate this growth, we need to hire the right people and keep the talent that we currently have to make it feasible.
Do you have a type of strategy in place, any type of plans that you have in place to make that happen?
Yes and no. So some of the locations are doing their own acquisition.
Okay.
We give them sort of a template to follow, but they are tasked to get their own people in.
Okay, so are you looking for more sort of consistency across your locations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some are doing it good, some aren't. So.
And then you also mentioned customer satisfaction was always on the top of your priority. So talk to me about what type of strategies you have in place for customer satisfaction.
Same as the talent one. Each of the stores are sort of doing their own thing. We give them again a template, and they report back to us how they're doing against that.
So again, you're looking for more consistency across the board. What about in terms of training your workers? I mean, customer satisfaction always starts with the employee. What type of training program do you have in place?
Yeah, so we have some onboard training when they first start, some regular training that we do on an annual basis as well.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, well, I appreciate you sharing all that information with me. So when I actually looked at sort of the information you gave me, some of your plans for the future, and I looked at your business, it reminded me of a business that we worked with a couple of years back. That business was actually Urban Barns. You may have heard of them. They're a retail store. They do a lot of home decorations. Very similar situation to yours. They had about 600 employees across Canada, 55 locations across Canada, and they were heavily into growth mode. They were looking to expand, open up new locations, and really harness the growth that they were seeing. So I wanted to actually compare and show you what we'd helped them with accomplish. I have some numbers up here. They may not mean to anything to you for right now, but I'll just quickly go over them. So 120 represents the amount of operating expenses that were helped Urban Barn reduce by streamlining a lot of their manual processes and streamlining the way they're actually operating. We were actually able to help reduce $120,000 off their operating expenses. 205 was the amount of cost of goods sold that we were able to decrease for Urban Barn by tightening up their vacation policy, by tightening up their vacation or their sick policy. We were really able to reduce that amount for them. And 5 actually represents the locations after they went live with us that they opened up in 1 year. And what that really signifies is an increase in revenues for them. So in terms of Urban Barn's profit and loss statement, what we were able to achieve with them was revenue minus cost of goods sold, gives you your margin. net operating income, minus your tax. We were able to help them open up 5 locations by using our systems to scale up. So we helped increase their revenues. We were able to reduce their cost of goods sold by $205,000, able to reduce their operating expenses up to $120,000. And at the end of the day, we had a huge impact on their bottom line profits. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. I don't know if these numbers are achievable with you, but really, this is the reason why we're talking.
Okay.
So one area we've been really successful in helping Urban Barn reach these goals was in the area of HR. So within HR, you have 2 forms of tasks that your HR department can spend their time doing. They can spend their time doing strategic tasks. This is everything to help support your main business objectives, like your growth, talent acquisition, and customer satisfaction. They can be putting in training programs for your employees. They can help setting up the culture of your business so that you're engaging your employees, you're retaining your employees. These are things that you want your HR department to be spending their time on. But because you're a business, they have tactical things that they have to worry about. Things like payroll, things like taxes, compliance, maybe timesheets, paperwork is a big one, and so on and so forth. So, as a CEO of a company, which one of these tasks, or which form of these tasks would be more financially rewarding for your HR team to be spending their time on?
Well, the strategic. I mean, if we can increase our growth, bring in the right talent, keep our customers coming back, then that's obviously going to be better for us than the tactical tasks.
Absolutely. So what we actually found, and in Urban Barn's case, was that 80 to 90% of the time was being spent on the tactical tasks, and only 10 to 20% was being spent on the strategic tasks. Now, that's a huge problem when you look at it, because this is where all the money is generated. So I want to look at why they're spending the 80 to 90% of the time there. So to understand that, you actually have to look into an HR and payroll department. So let's take a look at it. Your HR, sorry. So within your HR and payroll department, you have your inputs and outputs. Input could be simple thing as maybe a new hire starting today, and what you may see as a typical, hey, new hires, get them hired in the system, and away they go. Well, to HR and payroll, well, what ends up happening is that new hire comes in today. Well, we have to set them up on a payroll system. So there's one output right there. For Urban Barn, they had a series of Excel spreadsheets doing all of the HR. So set them up in all the different spreadsheets they have. You have to set them up in benefits, another output. Set them up on maybe some of the security stuff they have to do, and maybe some policy acknowledgements. What we really see here is what we call a butterfly effect. So for every input that comes in, there's a series of outputs that happen. And as the company scales up, like Urban Barn, as they get more and more employees, well, those inputs increase, and the amount of outputs exponentially increases at the same time. And what we call this noise. The stuff that takes us away from what we really should be focusing our time and efforts on. And this was what was happening, and this is why they're spending 80 to 90% of their time just on the tactical side of the business. Now, they're a smart company. They're a big company, they're a smart company. They had 3 choices at this point. Number 1 is they could go out and they could, stay status quo. But that was not an option for them because they wanted to grow their business as fast as they could. So that was eliminated. Number 2, they could go out and they could hire more HR people, more payroll people. But this was a very costly thing to do for them because you're adding headcount to areas of your business that aren't generating revenue for you. So this was a picture. So number 3 And what they ended up doing over time was they'd go out and buy different systems one at a time. And that's a smart idea. As a problem comes up, you want to fix it, right? So that's what they did. So what ended up happening was that they went out and they bought a payroll system. And then they had a bunch of different Excel spreadsheets for the HR. So a different HR system or a different process. And then they had time cards. And then they had another program for their benefits. And another one for all their recruitment and talent management. And for the time, it worked for them. It worked fine. But what they found was that none of these systems really talked to each other. None of them were integrated. And so a person or a series of people had to spend the time to transfer information back and forth, payroll to HR, HR to payroll, benefits to HR, so on and so forth. Now, PricewaterhouseCoopers, you may have heard of them, they did a study and they found that companies on average spend a minimum of $200 per employee per year transferring information back and forth from system to system. And what we call this is we call the seams cost, money falling down through the seams. And this was happening at Urban Barn. So this is where ADP stepped in. They said, you know what, there's a better way of doing business. What ADP brought to the table was, we said, hey, we can put all these different systems, all these different processes, we can put them on one system and one platform and one database. Therefore, you truly get that one input. You input information in your payroll, it travels through the HR. You input information into your benefits, goes to your payroll. You get that one input, one output. Now, when that happens, well, this right here gets eliminated, that seams cost, which was the $120,000 right here. But more importantly, well, it eliminated a lot of these outputs right here. On top of that, because of employee self-service, manager self-service, well, a lot of these inputs that were coming into the HR department were starting to become eliminated. Now, they're truly getting that one input and one output. When that happens with an organization, well, and in Urban Barn's situation, these times actually switched, where their HR team was spending 80 to 90% of the time on the strategic initiatives of the business, and only 10 to 20% on the tactical part of the business. When that's the case, well, that's where they were able to open up those 5 locations in 1 year in Canada, because they were able to leverage our systems. They were able to focus on the things that really mattered, which was their growth strategy, their customer satisfaction, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, well, they reduced almost $300,000 in cost. Now, I'm not saying that these numbers are realistic for your company, but what I'm proposing is, let me meet with your HR department, let me meet with your operations department. We do a deep dive, we do an analysis, and we figure out what these numbers actually look like for you. Then I come back to you in 2 weeks' time and circle back. We do an executive overview, an executive summary of what we found, and see if a partnership is worthwhile. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds really good.